Mandy is going to help us earn our Baloo the Builder belt loop. And this is where we learn carpentry tools, safe behaviors, how to use them, and then we have the option of either doing a project individually at home if you've got tools at home already, or for those that don't have tools, we will do some stuff together as a group for 2 or 3 consecutive dead meetings.
All right. I work in a small company that restores historic wood windows, so like the old wood windows you would find in an older house. And I have been fixing up houses for about 13 years since I bought my first house, and at some point I decided I would love to learn even more. So I went to school and did a 1-year carpentry course, and I'm partway through a 2-year cabinet making program. And also I know Silas because I have a 2nd grade, no, you're in 3rd grade. I have a 3rd grader at Bancroft. All right. So before we touch any tools, before we start any projects, we're going to talk a little bit about how to keep yourself safe. One of the most common woodworking injuries, doesn't seem like that big of a deal, but splinters. They can really hurt. So I love to wear gloves when I work with wood. Super smart. Yes, protecting your eyes is super important. I have a couple different variety of safety glasses. These are one of my favorites because they have these little side things that keep stuff from flying in there.
They're just normal glasses with...
They kind of look like it, but the difference between normal glasses and safety glasses,
You can see it.
they have a special kind of plastic that won't shatter. So if you're wearing normal glasses that are glass and you get hit by something in the eye, that glass is going to shatter and possibly really hurt you. So special safety glasses have a special kind of plastic that doesn't shatter. Often I'll wear clothes that have a high neck because stuff can hit your skin, it really hurts. So today I'm wearing something that zips all the way to the top. And you said ears. All right, so hand tool woodworking is generally not as loud as working with big machines or big power tools, but when everyone starts hammering, it could get pretty loud. So sometimes I like to put these on, and it keeps me from hurting my hearing. So here is a face mask. This provides dust protection so that you don't breathe in any sawdust or any fine dust from anything else you're making.
This cannot hurt one of those.
You should always have at least some first aid stuff on site. This is my little baby one. I carry this in my work bag. It has the essentials, some alcohol wipes. For cleaning wounds. Nope.
I got a first aid kit in my bag.
Yeah, we've got gauze pads.
You might be drunk.
Lots of band-aids. Because of splinters.
Yeah.
Because of splinters, I always have a tweezer.
But why nail clippers?
Sometimes, this is kind of gross, but sometimes if you get a really deep splinter, you have to cut away the skin before you can't get it with tweezers.
Ouch!
Why do you think you want to get that splinter out?
Because if you don't, it'll
hurt.
It could get infected.
You could get infected. And that is why I have antibiotic cream. So this is my favorite hammer. You can have a favorite hammer. It is okay. I love this hammer. This is called the head. The head is the part that you hit the nail with. And some heads are going to be smooth, and some are going to have some texture. The other important part of the hammer is the claw, and this is used to remove nails. The way you hold a hammer, you're going to approach it with kind of a handshake grip. Basically, take your hand, put it right on there. Let's think about the power. We want to make sure we have power behind our swing. So if I've got a nail and I'm pulling it way up here, so let's say I'm doing this. Is there a lot of power in this swing?
No.
My hand way up here?
No.
All right. So what you want to do is once you get your nail started, I like to start my nails with my hand about midway. Get it started so it's in there by itself. Then you can move your fingers. And then switch your grip lower so that you have a lot more power in your swing. Sorry, it's very jumpy. I ruined it! Oh no! What do I do?
Use the claw.
Okay, so a lot of people think that to remove the nail, you put the claw in here and pull this way. And you can do that, but you know what happens when you do that sometimes? You fling that nail right at yourself. So the super special secret way that actually takes less power is to put it in here, twist it to the side, put it back in, twist it to the other side, put it back in, twist it again, Eventually it's gonna come out.
That's how I use it.
You don't fling it at yourself, and you don't have to do this like whole movement. Like, all right, you don't want to have your fingers down here, because if you miss, you're gonna pinch your fingers between the wood and this hammer. You always want to hold your fingers up near the head of the nail, and that way, if you miss, your finger just kind of slides down, and it's not gonna hurt a lot less.
I can't remember that line.
Next up on our list, screwdrivers. I'm gonna use these a lot. There are two different kinds of screwdrivers that you'll probably be using the most. One is called a flathead, and it can go into what are called slotted screws, which basically have one line across the top. This is called a Phillips.
Yeah, because it's a Phillips-headed screw.
Yep, so it's a Phillips head screw. These are the ones that look like a plus. Screwdrivers come in different sizes. This one. So this is sized for a number 2 screwdriver. And what you want to do is use your fingers to help you get that settled in the hole. Driving a screw without a hole is possible, but really hard. I like to kind of just keep my fingers here as it gets started, and then once it's in enough that it's not really going to fall over, then I switch, and I'll use like a hand to stabilize and a hand to twist. And you have to have some pretty good downward pressure, otherwise this is going to end up flopping all over.
Mandy, may I make a comment?
Of course.
Regarding the hammer and then the screwdriver, did you guys notice that starting a nail or starting a screw, it's careful pressure, right? And then you add power when you want to drive that nail in or drive the screw. So I want you to sort of understand you're modulating your power, right? You've got control the entire way through, but you're thinking about careful pressure at the beginning, and then you add more pressure at the end.
Sure. All right. Third thing you're probably going to use a lot are saws. There are different kinds of saws for different kinds of work. These kinds saw on the push stroke. So you saw as you're pushing forward, it's sawing through, and then you're like taking off the pressure when you're coming back. And then as you saw down, you push again. So I usually will do it kind of kneeling on the wood. You want to keep your hands, sorry you can't see very well, but you want to keep your hands far back. And then you gotta just do like a little gentle back and forth to get it started. So again, really gentle pressure to start your cut, and then you can pretty much start giving it more power once you've got a little track that your saw blade is running in. Push, let go. Push, let go. Push, let go. Push, let go. And this is boring, so I'm not going to cut all the way through.
It's not boring, it's interesting.
It's not boring, it's sawing.
Wow!
This one is a miter saw, and it's for making finer cuts. And you can cut straight in this little box. You can also make a 45-degree cut here at an angle. You can also use this to bevel and make an angled end. But you notice that the teeth on this one are a lot smaller, right? So this one has really big teeth. You can use that for making bigger cuts pretty fast, but it's going to leave a really rough edge. This is going to go a little slower, but it's going to have a lot nicer edge, and it's going to take off a lot less material. This is a very special kind of hand saw. It's called a coping saw.
I know.
So a coping saw has two really main uses. One is to cut curves in wood. The idea is you can mark a curve in your wood, and because this blade is really thin and can pivot easily, and it has a really deep throat here, which allows you to get really far into the wood. You don't really want to bend it because you can actually break the blade. This looks pretty old-fashioned, but people still use this all the time. This is called a brace, and then these are the bits that go in the brace. All right, so we tighten this up in the chuck. This is an alternative to a power drill, and even though there are power drills now, a lot of hand tool woodworkers still use these. It's really common for chair makers to use them as well. Because you don't have a lot of power behind this, these bits are always going to have kind of a point to allow it to stay in the track. And then it usually also has these little like I'm sure these have an official name, but it has these little like pointy fins so that it guides itself through the hole. And then it has these really like spaced out spirals, and that allows the waste to come out without clogging the drill bit. So how you start with this is, again, slow and careful. Wow.
There you go, look at that.
Righty-tighty.
Yeah, those are machines. There are machines of those. But
So you can see, you can see how it has the ability to get all the waste out of the hole, because if there's not a mechanism for removing this, your bit's going to get really stuck.
That's so cool.
And then,
So I use my dominant hand for power
guide.
to hold it down, and then my non-dominant hand to spin.
How long?
I don't.
right.
You notice that when I was doing a lot of this drilling or screwing, my wood shifted around a lot, right?
Yeah.
Right? That's pretty annoying. If I had a clamp of any kind, like one of these quick grip clamps, I could clamp it to the table and it's not going to move, and I can do my work a lot easier and a lot safer. So this kind has a trigger, and when you depress the trigger, you can move it to approximately the size you need, but it's still going to be loose. And at that point, you squeeze this handle, and it tightens up a little bit more, and it keeps your stuff from moving. This is a more old-fashioned version of the same thing. You have to squish this in to move it. You can push it down, and then you twist this handle to apply the pressure to clamp it. And so this is the kind that I have for you. I have a lot of these. So there are different grits of sandpaper for different levels of smoothing. So if you want to just smooth things off rough and you don't care so much if the end result is super fine looking, you can use something with an 80 grit. You can feel that it's coarse. The lower the grit, like the lower the number, and that's going to remove the most material, but it's also going to leave the roughest surface.
That's red. Ooh, this one's softer.
Yeah.
This one's the softer stuff.
The general rule is that anything that the human hand is going to touch, you want to take off the sharpness.
Really soft.
So I like to fold it in half, kind of hold it in my hand,
Wow, that is soft.
and then just sand these edges. But what happens
If we make it smoother.
if you go, this is the wood grain, and the grain is this way in this piece of wood. What happens if you sand across the grain versus with the grain? We've got the scratches from the sandpaper going with the grain. Here they're against the grain. Which is more noticeable?
Against the grain.
So yeah, against the grain is definitely more noticeable. So when you're sanding, you want to look at the direction of the wood grain and sand with that wood grain. And that way, as you sand and get progressively finer and finer, you're going to eliminate these scratches instead of highlighting them. It's still 120. Here's 220.
Can't you just use never mind.
Alright, so now this section, I sanded back and forth so that I'm following the grain of the wood, and feel how smooth it is now. And can you see any scratches?
No.
No.
I can. It's just smooth. But
Alright, so last thing is, how do we figure out what size? So this is, before they had flexible tape measures, this is a folding tape. You would fold it in and out, find the measurements you need. And then with a flexible tape, you're going to hook it over the end of your material. True. A lot of tape measures have a locking mechanism.
I used to have
This one actually has an auto lock, which I like a lot. So if you pull it out, it locks, and then you squeeze it to do this. So you're going to hook it. And so let's talk about marking. So let's say I need to mark something to 10 inches. Can anyone find 10 inches for me? Perfect. So, alright, I'm like, here, 10 inches, I made a mark. Do you think that that is the best mark?
no.
I mean, it's not really straight. So is 10 inches here, or is 10 inches here? It's hard to tell. So what I like to do is get my tape measure close to the edge. And then here, let's say I want 10 inches here. I like to get my thing here and then make a V. So So with this V, you can see exactly where 10 inches is.
That was a great talk. Can we give Mandy a
Mandy.